a little out of words. I think this time of the year is a tough moment for a lot of players.
Tears, triumph, and a $100,000 promise inside Eala's emotional top 40 breakthrough that's breaking hearts worldwide. The tennis world has seen its fair share of iconic moments. We've witnessed racket smashes, on-court meltdowns, legendary comebacks, and championship celebrations that have become immortalized in sports history. But nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, could have prepared the global audience for what unfolded on that humid afternoon at the center court this week. The scene wasn't just about tennis anymore. It transcended the white lines, the green clay, and the scoreboards. It became something far more profound, something that cut straight to the bone of what it means to chase a dream while carrying the weight of gratitude on your shoulders. Eala, the 20-year-old Filipino tennis phenom who has been quietly reshaping the narrative of Southeast Asian tennis, just achieved what many thought was still years away. She officially cracked the WTA Top 40 rankings, landing at a career-defining world number 40. For context, this isn't just another rung on the ladder. This is the threshold where tennis players transition from promising prospects to legitimate threats. This is where the big money starts flowing, where Grand Slam direct entries become guaranteed, and where sponsorship deals multiply like rabbits. This is where careers are made or broken. But here's where the story takes a turn that nobody saw coming. Standing there, drenched in sweat, her chest still heaving from a 3-hour gladiatorial battle that saw her save match points and claw back from the brink of elimination, Eala didn't launch into the typical athlete script. She didn't thank her coach first, didn't mention her training regimen, didn't talk about her next tournament or her fitness levels or her strategic adjustments. Instead, she did something that stopped the tennis world dead in its tracks. She looked directly into the camera, tears streaming down her face mixing with the sweat of exhaustion, and delivered a tribute so raw and unfiltered that social media platforms nearly crashed from the emotional overload. "I don't play tennis just for money or titles," she began, her voice cracking under the weight of emotion. "My mom gave up so much so I could chase this dream. From sleepless nights driving me to training sessions at dawn, to saving every single dollar so I could compete internationally when nobody else believed in me. This reward, this bonus, this achievement, it isn't mine alone. It belongs to my mom. I want to give it all to her so she can finally rest, so she can feel proud, and so she knows that none of her sacrifices, not a single one, were ever in vain." The stadium fell silent. You could hear a pin drop. Camera phones emerged from every angle as the crowd realized they were witnessing something far bigger than a sporting achievement. This was a public repayment of a lifetime debt. This was a daughter honoring her mother in the most public, vulnerable, and powerful way imaginable. In an era where professional athletes are often criticized for being too polished, too corporate, too disconnected from reality, here was Eala standing before millions, completely unguarded, offering up her heart on a silver platter. The performance bonus she was referring to wasn't pocket change either. With her historic ranking breakthrough and recent tournament success, sources close to the Eala camp suggest the bonus package could be worth well over $100,000. That's life-changing money for most families, and yet before the ink could dry on the check, Alex had already mentally signed it over to Riza Eala, the woman who has been her anchor, her strategist, her driver, her manager, her psychologist, and her fiercest protector. To truly appreciate the magnitude of this moment, you need to understand the match that made it all possible. This wasn't some easy victory against a journeyman opponent on a quiet Tuesday afternoon. This was warfare. The Abu Dhabi Open, a tournament stacked with Grand Slam champions and hungry contenders all fighting for ranking points and prize money, became the stage for what might be remembered as the defining match of Eala's young career. In the second round, she faced Alexandra Sasnovich, a battle-tested Belarusian veteran known for her ability to grind opponents into dust. Sasnovich doesn't give you anything. She makes you earn every single point, and she's taken down some of the biggest names in tennis with her relentless consistency. Eala found herself in a nightmare scenario. Down 0-4 in the final set, the finish line was in sight for Sasnovich. The crowd, initially buzzing with excitement, began to settle into that uncomfortable resignation that accompanies an inevitable defeat. Whispers rippled through the stands. "She's done. Too much too soon. Nice try, but this is where the fairy tale ends." Even the commentators, usually optimistic about comeback potential, began hedging their language, preparing viewers for the end. Eala was staring down match points, plural, the kind of moment where champions are forged or pretenders are exposed. But then something shifted. Maybe it was the thought of her mother watching from somewhere in the stands or back home in Manila, eyes glued to the screen, fingernails bitten down to the quick. Maybe it was the accumulated fuel of every early morning training session, every missed birthday party, every sacrifice that had brought her to this exact moment. Maybe it was just pure, unadulterated refusal to quit. Whatever it was, it ignited. Eala began playing with a ferocity that bordered on supernatural. She started painting lines with winners that left Sasnovich frozen, her racket still cocked back for a return that never came. The forehand down the line that everyone had been waiting for finally arrived, not just once, but repeatedly, like a signature being stamped on a masterpiece. The crowd, sensing the impossible, began to roar. Momentum is a mysterious beast in tennis, and once it shifts, it can be almost impossible to reverse. Eala broke back once, then again, then somehow again, dragging herself level at 4 games apiece. The set that seemed destined to end in minutes stretched into nearly an hour of nerve-shredding, edge-of-your-seat drama. When regulation ended tied, they went to a tiebreak, that cruel and beautiful sudden death format that has crowned heroes and shattered dreams. And in that tiebreak, Eala played like someone possessed. She saved match points with audacious winners that will be replayed in highlight packages for years. She refused to blink. She refused to flinch. She refused to lose. When the final point landed, and Sasnovich's return sailed long, Eala collapsed to her knees, not in theatrical celebration, but in sheer, exhausted disbelief. She had just pulled off one of the greatest comebacks of the season. The win didn't just advance her to the quarterfinals. It sent shockwaves through the WTA rankings, catapulting her 5 spots upward and landing her at that magical career-high world number 40. It was the kind of performance that announces to the tennis elite that a new predator has entered the jungle, and she's hungry. But the real story, as we're learning, isn't written in match statistics or ranking points. It's written in the years of invisible sacrifice that built the foundation for this moment. Riza Manieguela is not some stage mother living vicariously through her daughter's success. She is a legitimate athlete in her own right, a bronze medalist swimmer from the 1985 Southeast Asian Games who understands the physical and mental toll of elite competition at a cellular level. But beyond her athletic pedigree, Riza was also crushing it in the corporate world, serving as the chief financial officer of Globe Telecom, one of the Philippines' most powerful telecommunications companies. Imagine balancing the pressure of managing billions in corporate assets while simultaneously managing the even more unpredictable career of a teenage tennis prodigy traveling the globe. The logistics alone would break most people. The sacrifices were monumental, though they happened mostly out of the spotlight. We're talking about a high-powered executive who made the staggering decision in 2024 to step away from her corporate throne, to retire from a career that most would consider the pinnacle of professional success, all to dedicate herself fully to Alex's volatile, grueling, travel-heavy life on the professional tennis tour. When Alex spoke about sleepless nights and saving every dollar, she wasn't embellishing for dramatic effect. She was pulling back the curtain on years of silent labor. Years of waking up at 4 a.m. to drive to training facilities. Years of stretching household budgets to afford plane tickets to obscure tournaments in Eastern Europe where 15-year-olds compete for ranking points and experience. Years of being coach, nutritionist, sports psychologist, and cheerleader all rolled into one exhausted but unwavering package. This public declaration of gratitude comes at a moment when Alex Eala's career trajectory resembles a rocket launch. The 2025 season has been nothing short of a fairy tale, the kind of breakthrough year that rewrites record books and forces tennis historians to start new chapters. Cast your mind back to Miami, that sun-soaked tennis paradise where the sports elite gather every spring. Eala arrived as a wild card, an unknown quantity that most top players probably didn't even bother scouting. She wasn't supposed to be a threat. She was supposed to be cannon fodder, a first-round tune-up for the established stars. But somebody forgot to tell Alex Eala that she was supposed to lose quietly. What happened next will be talked about for decades. Eala didn't just participate in the Miami Open, she rampaged through it like a hurricane with a vendetta. Her victim list read like a who's who of women's tennis royalty. She took down Madison Keys, a former Grand Slam finalist with one of the most feared forehands in the game. Then, in a result that sent shockwaves around the entire sport, she defeated world number 2 Iga Swiatek, the Polish powerhouse who had been bulldozing opponents with ruthless efficiency. Beating Swiatek isn't just difficult, it's borderline miraculous. The woman has won multiple Grand Slams and dominated the sport with a consistency that borders on robotic. And yet, there was Alex Eala, a teenager nobody had properly studied, dismantling one of the greatest players on the planet. That Miami semifinal run didn't just put Alex on the map, it obliterated the glass ceiling for Southeast Asian tennis. For decades, tennis in that region has been dominated by a handful of players who occasionally made noise but never truly threatened the established order. Eala didn't just threaten the order, she flipped the table, set it on fire, and walked away without looking back. Suddenly, every junior player from Manila to Jakarta had a new blueprint, a new belief that maybe, just maybe, they too could compete with the best in the world. The momentum didn't stop there. Eala followed up her Miami heroics with her first WTA 125 title in Guadalajara, a victory that proved she wasn't a one-hit wonder or a flash in the pan who only showed up for the big stages. Winning a 125 event requires a different skill set. You have to handle being the favorite. You have to navigate the pressure of expectation. You have to close out matches when opponents have studied your game and prepared specifically to beat you. And Eala did it with the kind of poise that usually takes players years to develop. She handled the mental burden like a seasoned veteran, dismantling opponents with clinical efficiency and hoisting the trophy with the confidence of someone who planned to do this many more times. Now, sitting pretty at world number 40, the landscape of her career has fundamentally shifted. This ranking isn't just a milestone to celebrate and move past. It's a game changer in the most literal sense. At number 40, Eala now receives direct entry into the biggest tournaments on the calendar without having to endure the brutal gauntlet of qualifying rounds. For those unfamiliar with the tennis qualifying system, imagine having to win 3 matches just to earn the right to play in the main draw, where you then have to win 7 more matches to claim the title. It's exhausting, it's demoralizing, and it burns through your physical and mental reserves before the tournament even officially begins. Direct entry changes everything. It means she can manage her schedule more intelligently, preserve her body, and focus her energy where it matters most. Perhaps even more importantly, this ranking gives her seeding protection at upcoming Grand Slams. Being seeded means she won't face the top players in the early rounds, dramatically increasing her chances of making deep runs into the second week of majors. It's the difference between facing Aryna Sabalenka in the first round versus the quarterfinals, giving her time to build confidence, rhythm, and momentum. Essentially, this ranking has fast-tracked her path to the business end of the biggest tournaments in tennis. The road is still long, the competition is still brutal, but she's now walking it from a position of strength rather than desperation. And the timing couldn't be more perfect. Just ahead on the horizon looms the Qatar Open, a WTA 1000 event in Doha where the prize money is massive, the ranking points are plentiful, and the competition is fierce. Eala is set to face Tereza Valentova, a fellow rising star from the Czech Republic who has been making waves of her own. On paper, it's a fascinating matchup between 2 young players determined to prove they belong among the elite. But Eala enters this tournament with something far more dangerous than talent or training. She enters with momentum, with confidence, with the wind of destiny at her back, and with the knowledge that she's not just playing for herself. She's playing for the woman who gave up everything so she could have this chance. Of course, there are skeptics. There always are. Critics and armchair analysts have begun to question whether the emotional weight of playing for her mom might eventually become too heavy a burden for someone so young. Can she sustain this intensity? Can she maintain her focus when the emotional adrenaline wears off and the grind of the tour settles in? What happens when she faces a crushing defeat, as all players inevitably do? Will the pressure of repaying her mother's sacrifices become a psychological anchor rather than a source of motivation? These are fair questions, but they miss the point entirely. If the Abu Dhabi comeback taught us anything, it's that pressure doesn't crack Alexandra Eala, it crystallizes her focus into something razor-sharp and unbreakable. She doesn't crumble under the weight of expectation. She thrives in it. She plays with a sense of purpose that transcends the scoreboard, a motivation that runs deeper than prize money or ranking points. When she's down a break in the third set, staring at the possibility of defeat, she's not just fighting for a tennis match. She's fighting for every pre-dawn training session her mother drove her to while the rest of the city slept. She's fighting for every family vacation that was sacrificed so she could compete in another junior tournament. She's fighting for every tear her mother shed in private, every moment of doubt, every financial struggle, every single sacrifice that built the platform she's now standing on. That is a terrifying form of motivation for any opponent to face. How do you compete against someone who's not just playing for personal glory but carrying the accumulated love and sacrifice of a lifetime on their shoulders? The answer is, you probably can't. Not consistently. Not when it matters most. Let's also address the elephant in the room, the financial reality of professional tennis that casual fans rarely see or understand. While the top 10 players on the WTA Tour are raking in millions through prize money, endorsements, and appearance fees, the journey to the top is obscenely expensive. Coaching fees alone can run into hundreds of thousands of dollars annually for top-tier guidance. International flights, hotels, meals, physiotherapists, fitness trainers, sports psychologists, equipment, stringing costs, the list goes on, burning through prize money faster than most people can comprehend. For every player you see winning a Grand Slam on television, there are hundreds more grinding through lower-tier tournaments, barely breaking even, funding their dreams through family support, personal loans, or sheer financial desperation. By publicly dedicating this performance bonus to her mother, Alex is acknowledging a reality that the tennis establishment often prefers to keep quiet. The Team Eala enterprise, like so many others, was funded by parental love and sacrifice long before the sponsorship deals started arriving. Before Nike came calling, before racket manufacturers wanted her signature, before sports drinks companies saw her as a marketable asset, there was just a mother and daughter, a dream, and a willingness to sacrifice everything to make it real. Alex's gesture isn't just touching, it's a middle finger to the sanitized, corporate narrative that pretends success happens in a vacuum. She's saying, loudly and clearly, that none of this happens without family, without sacrifice, without someone believing in you when the entire world thinks you're crazy. This move has endeared her to millions of people who have never watched a tennis match in their lives. She's transcended the sport. She's no longer just a tennis player with a wicked forehand and impressive court coverage. She's become a symbol, the dutiful daughter, the family hero, the relatable icon who remembers where she came from even as she climbs toward the stratosphere. In an age of athletes who seem disconnected from normal human experience, Alex Eala represents something refreshingly authentic. She's not pretending to be something she's not. She's not hiding behind a carefully curated public persona designed by a team of PR professionals. She's just being herself, gloriously, vulnerably, powerfully herself. Social media has predictably exploded. The video of her emotional tribute has been viewed millions of times across multiple platforms. Comment sections are overflowing with people sharing their own stories of parental sacrifice, of mothers and fathers who worked multiple jobs, who delayed their own dreams, who gave up everything so their children could have opportunities they never had. Alex Eala has tapped into something universal, something that crosses cultural, geographical, and socio-economic boundaries. The specifics of her story might be unique, but the emotional core, that gratitude, that desire to repay the people who believed in us when nobody else did, that's something everyone understands. Brand consultants and marketing executives are undoubtedly salivating at this development. Alex Eala isn't just marketable because she's talented, she's marketable because she's authentic, because she represents values that resonate across demographics. She's the perfect spokesperson for brands that want to align themselves with family values, with perseverance, with gratitude, with the idea that success is a team effort. Expect endorsement deals to multiply in the coming months. Expect her face to appear on billboards and in television commercials. Expect her story to be told and retold as an example of what's possible when talent meets opportunity meets unwavering family support. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. The tennis season is long, brutal, and unforgiving. Injuries happen. Form fluctuates. Confidence can evaporate as quickly as it arrives. The players who succeed at the highest levels aren't just talented, they're mentally resilient, physically durable, and strategically intelligent. Alex Eala has shown flashes of all three qualities, but the real test is sustaining it over years, not months. The real test is handling the pressure when she's seated at a Grand Slam and expected to win. The real test is bouncing back from crushing defeats, and trust me, those defeats will come. They come for everyone. The next few months will be fascinating to watch. Can she crack the top 30 before the French Open rolls around in late May? Roland Garros, with its clay courts and grinding baseline rallies, could be the perfect stage for her next breakthrough. Clay rewards consistency, patience, and mental toughness, all qualities Eala has demonstrated repeatedly. A deep run in Paris, even just reaching the fourth round or quarterfinals, would send her ranking into the top 25. Putting her firmly among the elite and ensuring she's seated at every major tournament for the foreseeable future. But beyond the rankings and the prize money and the endorsement deals, there's a larger narrative unfolding here. Alexandra Eala is changing what it means to be a professional athlete in the 21st century. She's proving that you don't have to choose between being emotionally vulnerable and being fiercely competitive. She's proving that acknowledging your support system doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. She's proving that the most powerful motivation isn't fame or fortune, it's love, gratitude, and the desire to honor the people who sacrificed so you could chase your dreams. Her mother, Riza, must be watching all of this with a complex swirl of emotions. Pride, certainly, probably overwhelming pride that her daughter has achieved something so remarkable at such a young age. But also, perhaps, a sense of validation, a confirmation that all those early mornings, all those financial struggles, all those moments of doubt, they were all worth it. Every single one. The investment has paid dividends beyond what any financial advisor could have predicted. Not just in prize money or ranking points, but in the creation of a human being who understands gratitude, who understands sacrifice, who understands that success is never a solo achievement. There's also something deeply Filipino about this story, something that resonates with cultural values around family, sacrifice, and filial piety. In Filipino culture, the concept of utang na loob, a debt of gratitude that can never truly be repaid, is fundamental. Children are expected to honor their parents, to care for them in their old age, to acknowledge the sacrifices made on their behalf. Alex Eala's public declaration is a perfect embodiment of this cultural value, and it's resonating powerfully not just in the Philippines but among Filipino communities around the world. She's become a source of national pride, a symbol of what's possible when Filipino talent is given the resources and support it needs to compete on the global stage. The Philippine government and various sports organizations are undoubtedly taking notes. If Alex Eala can achieve this much with primarily family-funded support, imagine what could happen with proper infrastructure, coaching, facilities, and financial backing for the next generation of Filipino tennis players. There are probably dozens, maybe hundreds, of talented young athletes scattered across the archipelago who simply lack the resources to develop their potential. Alex's success could be the catalyst that finally convinces authorities to invest seriously in tennis development programs, creating a pipeline of talent that could turn the Philippines into a tennis powerhouse in Southeast Asia. But all of that is speculation about the future. Right now, in this moment, we need to simply appreciate what we're witnessing. This isn't just another sports story. This isn't just another ranking update or tournament result. This is a once-in-a-generation convergence of talent, timing, and emotional authenticity that captures something essential about the human experience. It's about dreams and sacrifices. It's about mothers and daughters. It's about the invisible labor that builds champions. It's about gratitude expressed not in private whispers but in public declarations that risk everything for the sake of honoring the people who matter most. As Alexandra Eala prepares for her next match in Doha, as she steps onto that court carrying not just her racket but the hopes and dreams of millions, she does so with a clarity of purpose that most athletes never find. She knows why she's playing. She knows who she's playing for. And that knowledge, that certainty, makes her one of the most dangerous players in women's tennis right now. Because when you're competing against someone who has something to prove not just to the world but to the person who sacrificed everything for them, you're not just facing an opponent. You're facing an unstoppable force of nature wrapped in human form. The tennis world is watching. The Philippines is watching. Mothers and daughters everywhere are watching. And what they're seeing is the birth of something special, something that transcends sports and enters the realm of cultural phenomenon. Alexandra Eala isn't just climbing the rankings, she's climbing into our collective consciousness, taking up residence in that space we reserve for athletes who remind us why we love sports in the first place. Not for the money, not for the fame, but for those rare, authentic moments when competition reveals the very best of human nature. So if you're not following this journey yet, if you haven't subscribed to Court Vision Plus, if you haven't been tracking every match, every interview, every emotional moment, then you are missing out on one of the most compelling storylines in all of sports right now. This isn't just about forehands and backhands. This isn't just about rankings and prize money. This is about legacy, love, and the relentless pursuit of a dream built by two generations of extraordinary women who refused to accept limitations, who refused to quit, who refuse to let circumstances dictate their destiny. Make sure you absolutely smash that like button if you believe in honoring your parents, if you've ever felt that overwhelming gratitude for someone who sacrificed so you could chase your dreams. Drop a comment below and tell us what you think of Alex's incredible gesture. Has an athlete ever moved you like this before? Do you think she can crack the top 20 by the end of the year? What's your prediction for her match against Valentova in Doha? We want to hear from you. This is a conversation, a community of people who appreciate not just great tennis but great human stories. And for the love of everything holy, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell for Court Vision Plus so you never miss a single moment of this historic rise. We are going to be right here, match after match, covering every victory, every setback, every tear, and every triumph. Because this story is far from over. In fact, it feels like we're only just getting started. Alexandra Eala has announced herself to the world, and the world is listening. The question now isn't whether she belongs among the elite. The question is how high she can climb, and whether anyone can stop her when she's playing with this kind of purpose, this kind of fire, this kind of love fueling every single shot. The answer, if we're being honest, is probably not. And that's what makes this so absolutely thrilling to watch.
Hi everybody, it's Eala here. I just wanted to thank you all so much for the support. The atmosphere these past few days have been completely amazing.